Welcome, Purim, everyone. L'chaim, l'chaim. Anyone who wants a hesber on the ducky hat, in the last night's mimer, we gave a full explanation about the ducky hat. So we're not redoing that. Go back, go onto the channel, get the mimer from last night. I just want to tell everyone that this is your chance. This is your chance. You could post comments and I will respond to any question under the sun, any question. And if I get a bunch of questions together, I'll answer all the questions with the same answer. So if I get questions in a clump, I answer them with one answer that's koilel everything. So this is your chance to ask me anything. I'll open up with of what I like to say, which I hold. It's not just a drush. I know it's emes. It says in the Megillah, "V'noach ba'abarsar, v'noach chamishar." They rested. Noach. Strange lashon. It could say v'shabsu, right? They ceased all malacha. It could say v'samchu. V'noach. It leads like they were comfortable on the 14th. They were comfortable on the 15th. It's a very strange lashon, right? So there's a famous shtickle of Purim Torah, and this is Taka Purim Torah, okay? That they answer with a medrash where's someone going to get a piece of wood that's gavoah 50 amma, according to Chazon Ish, that's like 100 feet? Where are you going to get, gavoah 50 amma? So says the medrash that he went to Tevas Noach and he took a beam from there. Okay, so the Purim Torah goes that Noach didn't want to let him take it. So, they had a tug of war. And then he schlepped Noach into the Megillah. Haman won the tug of war on the surface until he was hung on that same thing. Right? So, that's how Noach. Okay. So first, I'll comment on this before I get to the piece of Torah that I want to say, right? And that is that in the famous Gemara in Chulin, right? It starts Moshe ben Atar minayin le'odin rachi b'adam la'olam b'shagam u'basar v'yadav me'avas shana roughly is the lashon of pasuk. All right, I'm not going to contend with man forever, for he is flesh. B'shagam is gematria Moshe. V'yamav me'avas shana. It's something like that. Right, his lifetime will be 120 years. 120 years. Which is how long as Moshe Rabbeinu lived. All right, that's a strange remes for Moshe. It's the gzeira of the Mabul. 120 years later would be the gzeira of the Mabul. Strange, right? Moshe's alluded to there. Really? Okay. And then after it goes into Haman Minator Minayin, Hamina Eitz, and Esther Minator Minayin, Anochi Esther Bonai, and Mordechai Minator Minayin, Anochi Kacha B'Sarosh Mor Dror, Targim Minan, Mira Dichya. Good. Okay. So Moshe Rabbeinu, who starts the whole discussion, because after Moshe Minator Minayin, then comes, Haman Minator Minayin. As the Maral says, if you talk about the epitome of Kedusha, which is Moshe, you have to look for the epitome of Tumah, which is Haman. Right. But, Moshe's alluded to in the Gzeira of the Mabul. Right? So I say a hesber like this, that, Amalek amongst his, he claims every claim he could claim, right? Just to create doubt and create confusion. Call it lawfare, like, Letitia Kushi, just seeing what sticks, just try every taina, create sveikas, see what sticks, right? So, l'cham. Amalek, amongst their many taina, Am Yisrael is not necessary. We don't need them, right? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a bris with Noach. They won't bring the Mabul ever again. It's enough to be a Ben Noach. We don't need Klal Yisrael. Right? And so that's what he means. He wants to hang Mordechai on a beam from the Tevas Noach I say that the flood is or rather the survival from the flood is evidence enough that Am Yisrael is not needed for Kiyum Ha'olam, because Hashem made a bris with all Bnei Noach, right? Not to bring the flood again. We don't need Am Yisrael. Who needs Am Yisrael? Now, that was the message we wanted to bring out, and hang Mordechai on a beam that came from Tevas Noach, right? So what the message is that Haman was hung on it, right? And it was a beam from Tevas Noach, right? That when HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a bris with the Bnei Noach, it's not to say the Bnei Noach are okay, and that's enough. No, they're not okay. They're not enough. They're a stepping stone. Hashem will spare them and make a covenant with them, al minas, to get to Klal Yisrael. And that's the secret of what it means. The Gzeres HaMabul is where there's a remes to Moshe Rabbeinu. Hashem is saying, I'm destroying the world because the world, after 10 years, expected them to be, 10 generations, I mean to say, expect them to be Makabel Torah. They refused to be Makabel Torah. Right? They did the opposite of being Makabel Torah. They're very perverse, very bad ways, like the leftists of today. Right? We are back to the Dora Mabel. What's going on today? Just in the schools, in the public schools. Hashem Yirachim. Right? So the the Bnei Noach are not enough, right? It's just that after 10 doors, Hashem lost his patience because they weren't willing to be Makabel Torah. And actually the Mayim that flooded the world was actually when Torah, Lo Zacha Nasel Sama Moves. So that's besides the Torah, which is Nimshal Mayim, became the Mea Mabul, beside Lo Zacha Nasel Sama Moves, right? And the world was flooded because they weren't willing to be Makabel Torah, right? Because gave them 10 generations and they didn't want it. Right? And they went in the opposite direction. But Moshe is alluded to by Gzer of the Mabul. This Gzer is because you weren't Makabel Torah. You didn't make yourself royal to be Makabel Torah. And whatever will survive is Almanas Moshe Rabbeinu. Not for Noach and his children, but they're a stepping stone to get to Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's the secret. And Moshe was also in the Teva, as Zohar says in Parsha Shemos. It's like the Mabul was still happening. We really didn't get to be better than the Mabul until Moshe Rabbeinu came along. And, he was the Noisin Torah. He was the Noisin Torah. Now, the process of getting to Moshe Rabbeinu happened just in time. We said Hashem waits 10 generations. So he waited 10 generations from Adam until Noach. And no dice, nothing going on. Flooded the world. But then, Asardos Minoach ad Avram. Avram starts the Beis Alofim Torah. Avram starts the path to Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's why the world is spared, right, for another 4 generations or so, right, 4, 6 generations thereabouts, and then Moshe actually, so Avram starts the Beis Alofim Torah. Moshe is the spitz of it, right, and and that's what makes us better than the Dora Mabul. And that's so Moshe ki mina mayim mishisiu. Moshe is the one who actually gets above the water, above the floods. Right, and he's the one who fights to make us better than the generation of the flood. So the Mitzrayim, they got flooded. But he was lokeh b'mayim. Ultimately, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he hit the rock, instead of talking to it, so he was lokeh b'mayim over aliske mayim. But that was a struggle to make us better than the water. Make us better. So the Bnei Noach are not really better than the Dora Mabul in essence. They're only better in the fact that they are a stepping stone to Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what makes them better. So the covenant that Hashem made with the Bnei Noach to never destroy the world again wasn't for their own sake. It was for the sake of Moshe Rabbeinu. Yeah? And that's what's alluded to. And that's opposite the message of Amog saying to be a Ben Noach is more than enough. That's all you need. Right? Even though, like the leftists say, they're not even B'nai Noach. It wasn't even that. But he was just trying to argue that Am Yisrael is superfluous and unneeded for Kiyum Ha'olam, and that was his mistake. Right? That's what I explain the feet of pshat, V'Noach refers to that Haman took a beam from the teva shel Noach. Okay. All right, but but a pshat that I want to say on a totally different angle, not the exclusion of the first, right? Is the Gemara says in Eruvin Daf Yud Gimel, I think it is, right? That Beishan Beisil argued for like was it 1.5 or 2.5 years. Listen, I had a lot of wine today, right? Whether Noach Shel Nivra Misha Nivra. Right, can we say that it was more comfortable for man to have been created than not have been created? Noach, Nimnu v'gamru Noach la'adam shaloi nivra misha nivra. Say finally after was it 2.5 years? I think it was. Right, they convened a bezdin. They convened a bezdin, and decided Noach la'adam shaloi nivra misha nivra. It's better for man to have not been created than to have been created. Right, frightening thing. So it's more comfortable to have been and to not have been created than to have been created. No. So now everyone asks, like, what's pshat? Did Rebbe Hashem create us to our own detriment? How is this square with what's written, Kisvei Ari and Ramchal popularized? The Rebbe Hashem created us to be native to us. It was an act of kindness. And yet the Gemara says, Nimnu v'gamru nachlam shalom nivra mishenivra. That is the famous kasha that should bother every thinking person, whether you know those Arizals and Ramchals or not. Right? How could Rebbe Hashem do something that's cruel and create us if it's more comfortable to not have been created than to have been created? So the answer that's brought down in all this svarim, each one in its own angle, most of the terutzim are really the expressions of safety, but every sefer just says it in his own way, right? They say that the pshat is like this. When we say Noach, comfortable, we're not talking about the emes. We're talking about whether we can understand, because comfort level is all in the mind, right? If a person tells you to do something you don't want to do, even if it's not a hard task, you're very resentful and it feels like hell because you don't want to do it, right? And as opposed to the people who do lift weights, right? Those who lift weights in gym, and they say to them it's all pleasure, right? Because they understand, they're real with it that it's for a good purpose. So like they don't mind, working very hard, lifting the weights, but those same teenagers. They're like, lifting weights, feel it's like hell when they have to just clean their room, even though it's much less effort. Noach is all in the head. And the machlokas was whether we could understand how we were, even within our biochemical consciousness, that it was for our benefit that we were created. The truth is, as Rav Isaac Hover points out, our mind is not like the mind of Adam Rishon Kodem Achet, that he could measure objective truth. Says the Rambam in the second paragraph of the Mar Nevuchim, right? Rishon could measure, objective truth, whereas our mind just measures the relativistic terms of Tov and Ra. When we dump, one scientific theory for another, it's just because on this other scientific theory there's less kashas. We're more noach, we're more comfortable with it. It doesn't mean it's the truth. Maybe the old theory is better, and there are different answers for all these things that we found difficult. But we start, throwing this out and accepting this instead, because we're not measuring objective truth. We're taking what's comfortable, and what's comfortable, God forbid, cannot just be that there's less cautious, right? But it also could be that we're convinced that this is the enlightened way to think. We're brainwashed, so it could be noach because we'd be up against the society that we live in. It will be uncomfortable for us to hold these positions, right? And that's the way, in the words of the Balatanya, this is the way the body thinks. The body thinks in terms of noach and lo noach. The body just looks for the path of least resistance, right? The most comfortable way of working things out and viewing things, right? So now the Machlos Beishan Beis Hillel was whether we could understand with the intelligence that we have from the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, how it was worth it to be created. And they said, no, with that das, Ninu V'Gamru, that's the whole point of consensus, of taking account. Majority view rule is that if most people think that way, that's the way the brain thinks. If most people think that way, you always have outliers, you always have exceptions. But if most people say it that way, then that's the way the brain works. So I say, Nimnu v'gamru nochlodim shloim v'mishnivra. It's been more comfortable to not be created than created, right? Man, I think that every single day, 10 times a day. Hashem, why did you create me? Man, gee. Anyways, that's the way the brain works. Well, it can't be true because God created the world to be mative. Just the feast sechel adam, right? Nimnu v'gamru nochlodim shloim v'mishnivra, right? And that's because we have das tovara. But on Purim, that we reach Ad Lo Yada, we go back to the Eitz HaChaim, we get past the Eitz HaDas, because Hamina Terminain, Hamina Eitz, right? So we get past that Das that says, Nochalim Shalom Nivra, Misha Nivra, we've been more comfortable to not be great and created. And on Purim, where we reach the beyond, and we're in touch, with the absolute truth, not the truth as it is in the biochemical consciousness. That's v'noch barabasa, v'noch chamishar. On this day, it's noch adam shenivra mishalei nivra. We are actually comfortable and happy that we were created as opposed to not being created. That's my first mimer. Now, I again reach out to everyone in internet land, if that's what it's called. I see your comments. If you type me a comment, I'll respond. This is your grand opportunity, right, to reach out to me and ask me anything that's on your mind. This is your opportunity. Don't waste it. Now, since no one has interacted with me and I'm going to move my song, this video is just going to watch me eat and watch me eat and watch me eat until I say my next mimer. But you are free to post questions, right? But before I go resume my eating, which is mitzvah sayom, because with the eating, it's besod Seuda saliv yason, because as we've said, last night, and we've said in other forums, leading up to this great day, Purim is a portal to the future. And the food that we eat on Purim is like Seuda Salav Yasan. It's like eating the behemoths Bahari Elef. It's like, it's like Olam Haba. It's called Seuda. That with our eating, we're actually taking the food in is also to take in Eretz Elyonim and take in this higher intelligence. Yisoid Abba, Mamish, big kaiches come in, to us and to our super consciousness. Our consciousness is from the Eitz HaDas Torah, but our super consciousness gets, all these eris that are from the Eitz HaChaim. So we must not be mavatal mitzvah of eating on this great day, where it's a mitzvah to eat. Every mouthful is another mitzvah. So during this time, but you could type me your questions and I'll respond to them. I do want to take this opportunity, and I'll do it again, to thank my new friends in Deal, Rav Moshe Malka, Rav. The big tzaddik Roni Levayev, if I'm pronouncing his name right, Mamish provided me with all tzarchei Purim, and Mamish, took care to collect things for my family on this great day. And Eliyah Besor, the wonderful Yidden in Deal that I'm privileged to deal with, pun intended, get it? Deal with, Mamish, real Yidden, Dorshe MS. Who have, Mamish made my Simchas Purim. So I want to give a big shout out to them before I resume eating. And we will continue later. Now you're just going to watch me eat until you type in your questions. Schmack of meatballs my wife made. Gotta wash it down with wine. Gosser yain. The whole thing was mishte yain. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a break and let my neshama go to Mesifta the Rakia and get more oris. And I'll be back with you soon. So I'm going to end this particular segment of the stream. And we're going to renew a new stream in just a few after I just put my feet up for a bit.